Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Witchwood is here. We are howling like some Nate Wolves, and you Ziggy Sarah'd your way here to twitch.tv/UnitedHearthstoneLeague. This is week 2 of UHL. Happy Friday to you and to all the ones that you love. My name is Brasky. I'm joined by the one and only Cinder Ascendant, here to bring you a fantastic Friday night of UHL matches. Week 1 is in the books. Week 2 is here. And much like we've seen with the matches all across this week, we're starting to see, Cinder, the class kind of restrictions take shape here, aren't we?
Yeah, we've already seen some people, some of the players planning like some of their secondary classes this week in order to prep for their best classes in week 3 against some tough opponents. So lineup strategy already starting to have a great effect due to this format.
Yeah, I've seen some really interesting lineups so far, and now we're starting to see kind of the strategy that is that what all the players have brought so far. Whether or not they kind of wanted to line up all the worst classes all at once, or what they thought would be their weakest, whether or not they just wanted to do too strong in 1 week all the way throughout, or if they just kind of, front loaded their strongest stuff, and then week 2, week 3 comes along, and they might kind of taper their way along. And as such, we talk about the classes that these competitors are choosing, and that's because UHL has a very, very unique format. Cinder, talk a little bit about the rules of UHL and why this format is so unique.
So the short and sweet of it is that the league runs in 3-week rotations over the course of 9 weeks or so. And each of those 3 weeks, when you play with your 3 classes for your best of 5 that week, the next week those classes are not available to you until you've played all 9 classes. So for this week, if you were to play Druid, Mage, Warrior, well, next week those three classes cannot be used until you've used everything. So each on the second and third weeks, your classes are restricted down to 6 and then 3. So we have players, like you said, planning out exactly how they're going to distribute their classes based on their strengths, based on the strengths of their opponents, and trying their best to maximize their lineup potential based on those rules.
Absolutely. And, last week, of course, we saw Nate Wolf win 3-2, bringing Druid, Mage, and Priest, and Ziggy Sarah won 3-1 with Druid, Mage, and Warrior. So both of them went Druid, Mage, and then kind of threw some other things on top of there. And now we're kind of seeing a combination, again, where they bring 2 of the same classes and one just a little bit different. Talk a little bit so far about the classes that both Nate Wolf and Ziggy Sarah have brought, and a little bit maybe about the decks, if you want to give anyone that's watching just a little bit of a hint of kind of the awesomeness that we're in store for.
So if you notice, neither player last week brought Paladin or Warlock. Those are considered by most people right now to be the strongest 2 classes in the game. Thanks in large part to like the odd and even Paladins and now Murloc Paladins. And of course, Q-Block has not gone anywhere. It's still a very strong deck. And Zoolock is still viable. So you have a lot of people holding on to those and waiting for those until week 2 or week 3, trying to get those wins early on with the weaker decks. And for this week, we have a little bit of both. Nate Wolf has brought out the Paladin. He is running even Paladin, so that's going to be the centerpiece of his lineup this week, along with the Hunter deck. By the way, the Hunter deck I'm a big fan of. It is a recruit Hunter deck. So it's going to be Katharina, big dinosaurs, that kind of shenanigans.
That makes me so happy. Probably the funnest deck I have had so far in this expansion is just messing with the recruit package and then just throwing whatever else. I mean, in this case, I think he's got a little bit of a secret package, a little bit of defensive tools. For me, I didn't care about that. I was like, where can I recruit the most minions? I don't care if my win rate is 40%. I just want that really sweet King Crush, Charge Megasaur, throw some play deaths in there and just see what happens.
Exactly. And then his third deck being Shaman, it's not a popular archetype. It's basically just an elemental shaman, but it has Shutterwalk on the top, and it's going to look to copy Zola, Serenite Chain Gang, and the Tolvir Stone Shaper to make basically multiple Tyrians on turn 9 or later. Ziggy, on the other side of the table, has not submitted her decks, but we do know her classes. They are a Hunter, Mage, and Warlock. So we were seeing Nate Wolf with the Paladin coming out to week 2, Ziggy bringing the Warlock on week 2.
I will say real quick. I do believe that Ziggy Sarah is actually bringing Hunter, Warlock, and Shaman, not Mage. She brought Mage last week, is what she did this time around.
Okay.
Which is the interesting thing to me is that you see both these players, they stayed away from Shaman in week one. There was a few players that bit the bullet and said, I'm going to bring Shaman out, and a lot of them brought that crazy Shutterwalk deck. And now we're kind of seeing, the regression of Shaman, or at least that particular deck in a way. It's one of the least represented classes on ladder, yet I think there is still much to be explored. People obviously wanted to do the OTK Shutterwalkness, and I really like what Nate Wolf did with his Shaman, with his Keleseth version. It's a very even curved, very curved stone style of deck. The elementals get you a lot of value, and the Shutterwalk in the way it uses its battle cries is really just a great comeback mechanic. It doesn't need to win you the game right away, but it can swing the board your way.
Yeah, and I think what some people may not realize if they haven't played with this deck is that Hagatha, even though she's a hero card, her effect is still a battle cry. So when Shutterwalk gets played, if Hagatha has already been played before, then that's a hellfire to the board, basically. So Shutterwalk can clear the board and then start duplicating himself and giving himself, Taunt Divine Shield, maybe freeze some stuff on the other side of the table if the Glacial Shard's been played. So there's a ton of top-end potential with Shutterwalk if the Shaman can live long enough to realize it.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is how you stay alive as the Shaman. So, Paladin, Hunter, Shaman for Nate Wolf, Hunter, Shaman, Warlock for Ziggy Sarah. Bring in the Warlock, of course, which is always a strong pick no matter what the week you bring it here in UHL. And we're going to get these players going here in just a moment, and we're going to start up match number 1 very, very soon. But, of course, if this is your first time here to the stream, welcome to twitch.tv/UnitedHearthstoneLeague. Of course, you can find out more about the league by going to Twitter at UnitedHSLeague. Of course, you can also go to the Patreon, which is right up here at patreon.com/UnitedHSLeague, and you can, become a patron, support us financially. We were going to give a shout out to a lot of our patrons here after game number 2. And meanwhile, you can always check out the wonderful assortment of awesome podcasting content creators below us. All of them participate in UHL. Cinder, we getting ready to roll here?
Yeah, they are in the match screen and are getting ready to. They are doing Battle with a Friend. So
let's see
spectate
what
away,
we
my
do.
friend. And I'm going to throw onto that Patreon thing. This whole thing's been put together by basically one mad genius, and he needs all the support he can get to make this something special. It already is super special because all of these great content creators are coming together to compete and put on these great matches for all their fans and all the podcasting network in Hearthstone. He's doing it all on his own and out of pocket. Everybody's volunteering their time. And the more support he gets, the better this is going to get. Like, the production values for this Brasky have been like doubled, tripled, quadrupled from last season to this season.
And it's been a lot of fun. You know what else is fun? Trying to bring a very, very funky style, even Paladin, against a straight-up control Warlock. I see Doomsayers. Actually, no, I see the cube version. We got Doom Guards in hand as well. I see a Golden Faceless Manipulator. Meanwhile, Nate Wolf starting off with a wonderful even matchup. He gets to go Hero Power on 1. He's going to run into a Doomsayer on 2, but he's got that Call to Arms waiting for him on 4.
Nate Wolf went ahead and opened with the Paladin, which is the strongest deck in his lineup. But Ziggy made the read there and counters with the Q block. So Nate Wolf has his work cut out for him. This is his weakest matchup in this set.
Interesting card there for Nate Wolf in his even Paladin, dropping the Valinir. Do you think that's really kind of a value play on his side, especially against a Warlock, just to start creating big minions that he can start rolling with after turn 6 and 7?
Yeah, it is kind of a nod to the potential of control matchups because the Valinir combined with the Serenite Chain Gang can give you more or less infinite value in an in-game scenario. So it kind of prevents the Paladin from dying to fatigue if it runs out of any threats in a control situation.
And look at this, a Wild Pyromancer is in the build here for Wolf. Going up against a Shaman, Warlock, and Hunter. Perhaps he's got that Wild Pyro in there for the Hunter. I'm not exactly sure. It seems a little odd to me. It seems like a great ladder choice, but I'm not exactly sure you might want to be running that in sort of a Conquest format. What do you think about that choice there to drop the Wild Pyromancer right here?
The inclusion in the deck is kind of a nod to mirror matches because it'll clear up opposing dudes and the little 2 health minions that Paladins will run, but not going to see a lot of use here in this Warlock matchup. But it is a 3-2 body, though, so it's still pretty relevant for pushing damage and making value trades on the board. So it's not totally dead in this matchup. It is going to realize some value.
Absolutely. So there's the trade right away, getting a bunch of tokens online. Serenite Chain Gang just going to start going wide on the board. Nice play right here, kind of just throwing out a little testing for that first AoE. That's the job right now if you're the even Paladin. Put enough pressure on your opponent that they have to use up a lot of their board clears, a lot of their removal, which the Warlock has in spades. But eventually your hope is that you can finally get one board to stick and then start putting the pressure on from there.
Yeah, and I like what Wolf has done here too. He not neglected, but he passed on making dudes, not even off the hero power, because he knows that putting a 1 health minion on the board opens the door to a very easy defile board clear. So he's going to make sure that Ziggy can't do that unless she throws a 1 health minion into the mix. And right now she has no clear available to her at all, so she's going to have to play the board fair by making trades. 5 mana Tar Creeper feels kind of bad, but it works here.
It definitely feels bad, but at least it has the wall up right here. And so this is what we're seeing right now for Q-Block. Q-Block can do some insanely broken things when it has the right hand, but the big thing that goes against it is its inconsistency. This is why we're seeing a lot of people just go straight control in the Conquest format. Just know that you can completely own any aggressive and even mid-range matchup in a lot of ways with a straight-up control lineup. When you have the Q-Block, sometimes your hand just is just awkward enough that you can't do much with it.
And Wolf being able to basically clear the board off the back of the Sweeper of Ultimon there, Sunkeeper Tarim is a great play, but Ziggy's got the Mountain Giant queued up, but the taunts are in the way. So Wolf now kind of has free reign to start developing this board wide. Probably kind of made the read that there's no AoE because he didn't see any come out in the last 2 turns. So he's going to try and develop wide here.
Ziggy Sarah needs a board clear right now, especially with the Silver Sword impending on turn 8. That can make for a quick game if you have a wide board sitting right there. So Ziggy Sarah hoping for some type of defile. Even a Hellfire will do great right here. Not a lot of ways for her to kind of... And the thing is, both Void Lords are in hand. So she, if a Possessed Lackey comes out, there's no way to cheat it out right now with your Dark Pack. There is a defile. That is a fantastic pickup. Going to clear out a lot of this board.
Yeah, it's exactly what she needed here. It's going to clear up everything but Sunkeeper Tarim. And like you said, like the only thing that Ziggy can cheat out of the deck via recruit mechanic is another Doomguard, and that is not going to help against a wide board like this. It'll trade down 1 minion and that's it. She needs to find a way to live to turn 9 or turn 8 with the coin, and play out those Void Lords and survive this. She's going to Dark Pact this Mountain Giant just to stay alive long enough to do exactly that, to try and survive, to play those Void Lords out of hand.
Well, you got to think. I mean, just dark packing yourself. The point of the game right now is obviously stay alive until turn 9. That's what you need right now. Get that Void Lord out there, the big bad Void Daddy. Now you have all your demons in hand. Of course, if that Skull of Minari comes out, you're going to have a fun time as well. But now we're sitting here on turn 8. Silver Sword no longer has what he needs, but the Valenier is going to start clearing some minions off. He can put down a Hydrologist with it, but there's also the option of maybe just dropping a Crystal Lion. You know that you've seen board clears come out. You might just want to get a big minion out there. What's the play here?
Well, if Wolf can properly guess that this is a Q block and not a control lock, which I don't think he's seen enough information to make that call. But if he makes that call, he'll know that there's no Siphon Soul in the deck, and probably no Twisting Nether. So being able to play the Crystal Lion just raw is an acceptable play onto an empty board. But I don't think Wolf has enough information, so he's kind of playing it slow here. Which I don't know about. I think I'd really want to get some more pressure on board, knowing that Ziggy could possibly coin out a Void Lord here. Wolf needs to apply pressure, and this is a pretty passive play. I'm not really sure about this.
So a fairly passive play. Gets the weapon lined up, but that weapon, of course, not Valenier. Meanwhile, another Doomsayer. That's a great drop here on 8 if you want to set up a Void Lord on 9. Not much that Ziggy Sarah has to do here. She could even tap if she wants to. She's not in danger of dying. The big taunts are going to come down here. You do have a little bit of concern, perhaps, for some type of silence effect, but instead you're just going to coin out that first Void Daddy.
Yeah, no need to wait a turn to do it. She's going to coin it out now, but Wolf made a great call on the Repentance. to make sure that just a single dude's going to trade away that Void Lord thanks to that 1 mana secret. So nice heads up play from Wolf. Even though the last turn was kind of passive, I think that's what he was hoping to catch on that turn 8, turn 9 play of Void Lord.
Great setup right here, getting 2 dudes on the board so you can play double Crystal Lion right now. So here comes the first Void Lord. You're going to be dealing with a lot of these taunts, but you got some sizable minions now on your side. You know, those 5/5s with Divine Shield can be very annoying for the Warlock. Of course, the second taunt probably most likely going to come down here on 9. Few options for Ziggy Sarah to play with, but once this Void Lord is done, there's not a lot left for Ziggy Sarah to do besides maybe find a way to get a Doomsayer to connect, and of course trying to find that Warlock Death Knight.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing for Wolf here is that she had that second Void Lord come out just right out of hand. Ziggy managed to play this board well enough to play them both out naturally. So now Wolf has to chew through that 9 health. But tell you what, man, Silver Sword, that is a good card.
I love everything about this card. This was kind of a sleeper card right here. A lot of people didn't think it had the gas that this thing does, but in an even Paladin, if you have any type of board, you drop that Silver Sword, and you are going to be having a fun time the rest of the way. It almost reminds me a little bit of a weapon that we would see in the single-player content of the Witchwood. It has great synergy with everything else about this deck. I really enjoy it, but the one thing I will point out is that this Valnir has been sitting in hand for quite some time. It just seems like an awkward card to play in here, especially when this might be the one matchup you would get the most use out of it.
Yeah, but it's not going to be relevant until very late in the game. If Wolf is still alive and he has no more threats remaining, Ziggy being forced to drop this Doomguard naturally and discard 2 cards is really, really difficult. So Wolf should get some information here that Ziggy doesn't have much in her hand. But double Doomguards is really, really strong and is going to be able to clear off quite a bit of this offense. Oh, she's going face. Oh, my goodness.
Now, it's an interesting play for Ziggy. She's trying to figure out what she wants to do here. You know, there was definitely some merit to going face there. If you have that big wall of taunts behind you and 10 damage straight up going to face, you can start putting a clock on your opponent.
Yeah, but the other consideration, though, a lot of these even Paladins running equality packages with Consecrate and Avenging Wrath and Taunt Walls don't mean anything against those card combinations. And with a wide board, 4 minions already developed and a Silver Sword, I don't think Ziggy can afford to ignore it. I think she has to try and clear off as much as she can.
So there goes a big buff onto a bunch of minions again. Obviously, this Hydrologist can start doing a little bit of damage if it wants to, and the 7/7 can easily go face right here, but, you know, the one thing that we have not seen yet from Ziggy is a cube.
No cube. No, there's Gul'dan finally. So now Ziggy can actually trade away these Doom Guards if she wants, and then get them both back, plus both Void Lords, possibly, assuming the Void Walkers don't fill up the board ahead of time. This is the swing turn Ziggy needed to stave off this inevitable win for Wolf. It's going to depend a lot on the RNG on that summon.
Ziggy trying to figure out the order that when she wants to do this. Did she want to keep the Doom Guards alive right now? It looks like she's going to trade them in. So the first one goes and dies. Is she going to trade in the second one? And if so, where? And will you get them back from this Blood Reaver Gul'dan?
That's the trick. She's giving them up to the Gul'dan resurrection, but they may not come back. So she needs to get lucky on this.
Let's find out what we get.
She got them both.
Double Doom Guard comes back down there. Huge spot right there. Missing a Void Lord, which is going to protect these a little bit. Keeps trading and now throws the other Doom Guard into it. So that's the last Doom Guard for Ziggy Sarah. She kind of wants that thing to stay alive, maybe get a little bit of burst damage if she finally gets a cube online as well. You have the other Doom Guard sitting in hand that's going to toss some cards away unless you find the skull. But again, here comes Wolf. He's going to fill up this board. He's going to buff everything again. Does he now he's starting to run out of cards here, and of course, being an even, you don't have Divine Favor. Is he running out of gas here? Is this his final stand?
He had to punch through that Void Lord first and foremost, and that's out of the way. The Silver Sword is going to prevent these dudes from being cleared by trades. So Ziggy is going to be relying on the Hellfire,
which
just came off the top.
Look at that. A fantastic pull right there. Of course, we hadn't seen a Hellfire yet, and odds are she was going to find it at some point. But the Hellfire comes down. It's going to make for a fantastic board clear. But wait, she's going to go for the Doom Guard, and that's going to be...
Oh, no!
She tosses away that, but it's going to be good with that hero power.
Oh, she's got the hero power.
It's going to be doing just fine. Great look by Ziggy Sarah. Lol, NA casters, as we missed the lethal, but thank goodness Ziggy Sarah did not.
Well, we saw the lethal. We just didn't see the hero power lethal. So we all got there together. That's the important thing. Ziggy Sarah going up 1-0 on this Q block. That's the one she wanted to see.
That's exactly why they play the games and we do not. We simply just sit here and talk, and fantastic! I also just won a card pack for watching and learning. That is amazing. Ziggy Sarah now has my vote for the rest of the match. We're going to open that pack live on stream, I think. We're going to open it, see what we get from it.
I think you have to bust the pack on the stream. I think there's no choice now.
No doubt that Warlock is very effective, very strong. We saw an awkward opening hand that just ended up finding its way against the Paladin. Of course, the Paladin very strong in its own right. The Warlock, some would argue, is just a direct counter to that deck. So if you're Wolf, do you stick with this Paladin knowing you have Shaman and Hunter to go up against next, and you just know that this thing's going to get you points at some spot during this match?
I think you want to recover that win as soon as possible. In conquest situations, since you don't have to change your deck if you lose, he's going to probably want to save his two weaker decks for later on in the series so that he has multiple chances to get wins with them. Like he knows the Paladin's going to win any matchup for the rest of the series probably. So if he gets it out ahead of time, he can basically kind of like give himself an extra life, right? In order to possibly re-queue one of those decks if they don't perform well later on in the series.
So how often do you, in a typical ladder session, much like myself, miss lethal?
I don't know if it's possible to know that. It's kind of like one of those things that if you didn't know that you missed it, how would you ever be able to measure it?
It's very true. I mean, I'm guaranteed if I stream at some point, I'll miss lethal maybe 2, 3, 7 times, of course, on the entire night. And usually someone will be in chat, probably Ridiculous Hat, just typing in all caps, just yelling at me very, very intricate insults, just letting me know how terrible of a player I am. But at least I think I'm a decent caster. And once we get game 2 going, we will not miss lethal this next time. I promise chat that. We will not miss lethal. We will find a way. We're going to find a really ridiculous lethal. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to make up for missing what our hero power is going to do. Isn't that right?
I don't know if I would write any checks that we can't cash. Stuff happens, it's
our Patreon's not that hefty right now.
Right. Patreon goal, do not miss lethals anymore.
And speaking of Patreon, of course, you can visit patreon.com/UnitedHSLeague, where you can financially support this league as well. And we do have one patron that sits, of course, at the $5 level, which means they get special mention here on the stream. And, of course, that is James, a.k.a. Zeroshio, who has been a fantastic supporter of UHL so far. So, Zeroshio, thank you so much. For everybody else out there who's been supporting UHL via, helping us out with retweets, putting out the word on any types of social media, it's going to be a lot of fun. And speaking of which, we're going to get into the fun of game number 2 right now.
And by the way, if you don't listen to the Hero Power podcast, you need to. It is a ton of fun. It's one of the 3 best things ever to come out of Tennessee, right behind the music and the whiskey.
Absolutely. And of course, don't forget about that hot chicken. That stuff is fantastic. And what else is fantastic? Seeing a couple of knife jugglers and, of course, a call to arms and a paladin hand. Ziggy Sarah here, busting out the shaman. I see a lot of elementals. I see some AoE here with a lightning storm. Could this be kind of the same type of shaman that we might see from Wolf here later on today?
I think so. I mean, generally the Firefly Tar Creeper is a signal. It's a nod to an elemental package. Burlock is... Yeah, okay, so Burlock is... I don't know is that one a freeze an enemy? Yeah, it's freeze an enemy. So yeah, it's just probably the same kind of setup where she's trying to get to Shudderwalk at the end. Wolf's Hand's a little tough with the knife jugglers. Usually want this coming out of the call to arms, but probably okay against the shaman.
Just goes with the knife juggler and doesn't, obviously going to save that coin for turn 3 so you can drop out that call to arms on 3, leave yourself a little flexibility. But, at the present moment, there's no real way to deal with this knife juggler besides dropping down a very low value lightning storm. You can start putting up some taunts if you want to. You can get that card draw online, which of course is all important with a Shudderwalk Shaman, if that's what Ziggy Sarah is running here, which all intents and purposes, you're not going to run Burlock in any other deck, let's be honest.
Not sure about the trade there. I don't know what setting the knife juggler to 1 really does, because she is holding the lightning storm. So I mean that's going to clear the board later on. But like you said, like Shaman doesn't really have ways to deal with a 2/2 early on aside from AOE. So Wolf felt safe in putting down that knife juggler, and ahead of that call to arms, he's got both. The being on coin, being able to put that on turn 3, very, very powerful for this deck.
And everything goes to face. Ziggy Sarah obviously going to be able to get a little bit of value of the card draw out of this totem. Lightning Storm, a real fun way to deal with a call to arms that just dropped down.
Yeah, and that's the risk of coining that out on a turn 3. But Ziggy will be on 3 mana next turn, so it is forcing Ziggy to play it. At least does restrict the mana earlier on. If he had done it a turn later on time, on turn 4, Ziggy would have been lightning storming on 5, which is a little awkward.
Cinder, I'm going to point out the fact that I just saw Frost Shock come into Ziggy Sarah's hand, along with Kalimos the Primal Lord, and look at this Icebreaker. The free shaman archetype is alive and well, and it's in the mind of Ziggy Sarah. She's got this Frost Shock capability that she can kill anything with her weapon. I'm interested, to say the least. What do you make of this turn of events with these latest cards into the hand for Ziggy Sarah?
So this kind of makes a little bit of sense. We haven't seen the full deck list, but we know that Shutterwalk can replicate the Glacial Shard and the Burlock freeze effect. It just freezes a random enemy, since you can't target it because it's Shutterwalk is deciding the targets. But that combined with the Icebreaker can allow some hard removal later on in the game. But Icebreaker is a face tank weapon. You have to take the damage from the minion to remove the minion. So it's going to be a big question of, if she's running Healing Rain or something like that to soak up that damage, because otherwise this is going to be tough.
Look at this. Equality comes down right now for Wolf. He uses it just on these 2 minions that don't pose a huge threat, but do pose a lot of value, because that Manatide has gotten a lot of cards out of itself right now. Volcano now comes into the hand for Ziggy Sarah. Good amounts of AoE, a lot of defensive capabilities with her hand right now. She's in a good spot right now against this Paladin.
Yeah, Wolf not really putting down a bunch of threats, and Ziggy's got numerous taunts in hand that she can leverage. And Wolf, he used that equality pretty early just to try to get rid of that Manatide totem. But honestly, Brasky, it's done its damage at this point. What is she really gain? What is Wolf gaining out of removing it via equality? Because if Wolf makes to read this is going to be a deck that has Kalimos, Shutterwalk, etc. You really want to save those equalities for dealing with those huge boards that this deck can create later on.
Absolutely. A little bit of an awkward spot for Wolf right here. Second Knife Juggler goes down, but at this point, Wolf just knows that he's going to get out some dudes, going to find some way to evolve them or adapt them, and +3 attack. Of course, you got that stickiness of the Death Rattle. Health doesn't seem like the best choice right here. You might go for the sticky play. What about you?
Yeah, well, the thing about the sticky play is that the Volcano, if it gets played, it'll kill everything before the Death Rattle spawn, if I remember correctly. So it will prevent Volcano from being a full clear, if that's correct. Same thing goes with a Lightning Storm. If he takes the health, then the Volcano can still clear the board, just because it's not going to be, it may not be enough health, to equal up 15 based on whatever else is on the board. So Wolf, and +3 attack is just kind of begging to be Lightning Storm, but he goes with the health. He's gonna
goes with the health. He does not like the sticky play. He doesn't like it sticky tonight. He decides he likes vitality. That's the way Wolf likes to go. Me, I'm more of a sticky person. I could also be an aggressive person. Just drop that big attack down.
Tell you what, though, that Blaze Caller just came off the top for Ziggy. That's 5 damage she can throw wherever she wants, and then that's going to lead into a turn 8 Kalimos if she wants it. And that could be a pretty big swing with his AoE damage.
Flames can consume you if you set it up properly. So we're going to see what appears to be a trade-in right here. Are we going to see a Volcano right now? Yes, we do. So
yeah, I don't like this.
Yeah, Volcano come down. Not the best value out of this AoE. Even leaves some minions up, and you lose your elemental chain, kind of going from right there. Maybe not the best move right there from Ziggy Sarah. There were a lot of other plays you could have made. Still defensive. A lot of taunts. You could have just dropped down a 7-mana 6/6 or and thrown 5 damage at somebody. Instead, Valenier goes online for Wolf, and he's going to start putting the pressure on.
Yeah, I think Ziggy was probably trying to play around Sunkeeper Tarim, because she did see that. She knows that it's in his deck. Playing around a second Lightfuse Stegodon, to try to keep yourself from getting bursted down by 3 dudes buffed on board. And while I can understand that play, I think she really needed to set up her own offense via Blaze Caller, removing something, maybe the Stegodon with its 5 damage, and then setting up the Calamos with its board clear later on. So I don't know.
Valinir's going to get a chance to buff its first minion of the night, and we're going to find out what it is here if Wolf attacks into it. A lot of different options here as well. So you can make a few tokens here. Consecration doesn't have a lot of moves here, but Redemption could be fun. You might want to get this Dry Gulch Jailer online if it gets buffed. Instead, the buff goes onto the 1 mana minion. Now, here's the thing about Valinir, and that I might point out about this. You know, a 5/3 minion is fantastic, but there is prudence to throwing out that token first, really trying to line up what minion gets buffed. I get the feeling that Wolf was just hoping and praying it would hit something that he wanted, as opposed to playing out the minions first and then kind of guaranteeing the buff.
Yeah, like the Valinir bonus landing onto one of these recruits means it's a 1 mana 5/3, which is a humongous value. Challenges the Dark Reaper right away, and has a pretty good chance of returning Valinir to hand as quickly as possible to start getting that recurring value. So I do like him holding the dudes and then breaking Valinir to get the buff onto one of them as high percentage as possible. And looks like Ziggy's considering Calamos, and that would be a pretty strong play here.
Yeah, I like what she's thinking here. Here it comes. Is she? There it goes. The elements combined, you most likely go for the AoE.
Yeah, there it is. That's going to be a full board clear for Ziggy. Well, she gets probably a 1/1 here. Yeah, she gets the 1/1 back.
1/1 sticks around. Weapon goes online. And the good thing about Wolf, of course, right here is that you know, he can get the tokens out. He can guarantee a buff on something like the Crystalline if he wants to. But also, when he does drop the Silver Sword, he could just drop it right on top of the Valinir, you know, engage the Death Rattle, drop it on a minion, and call it good from there, too.
Yeah, and he's holding on to he might be trying to target that buff onto maybe the Pyromancer or the Crystal Lion.
Let's see. Crystalline comes down right now, so no buff on that one, but only 1 minion in hand for Wolf right now, so that's almost guaranteed to get the Valinir buff. Meanwhile, 7/7 on board for Ziggy Sarah, and just comes into the hand the Voodoo Hexer, which is going to freeze. It's a taunt that's going to freeze anything that it touches. Of course, plenty of options right here. That Blaze Collar still sitting in the hand.
Yeah, I think Ziggy hasn't really felt like there was a good target for that 5 damage, but she's got one now with the Crystal Lion, so I wouldn't be surprised to see her play this. The Voodoo Hexer is a very passive card, but it's a very big butt taunt that freezes stuff. So even if you don't die in the trade, you're stuck on board, and because you get your minion is frozen when you attack, it's frozen for almost 2 turns basically for the Shaman. So it's a pretty good card against these defensive decks, or against these aggressive decks.
So now the Burlock comes down. It's really just sitting there right now. A lot of defensive tools for Ziggy Sarah, but you got to think this might just be the Shudderwog waiting room at this point. Again, Greymane, of course, probably one of the weakest cards in the deck, but it's kind of necessary if you want to run an even Paladin. But now lots of minions on the board. This Silver Sword can come down and buff up some minions as well. You almost kind of just want to drop the Silver Sword here, even though you're frozen, just to get the buff on either the Wild Pyromancer or even Gen.
Well, Wolf is actually in a position here where he has to address the board because in combination with the Frost Shock, Ziggy's holding lethal. So he's going to have to remove, at the very least, the Burlock, and probably will trade away some or all of these dudes to try to get rid of those one of those big minions. Yeah, he's going to get rid of that Blaze Caller and probably just play the Gen out, because 6/5 is really not that bad for 6 mana.
Not too shabby, but sitting on the back foot is Wolf, and not a lot of card draw to be happening for him. So Ziggy Sarah, plenty of options at hand. There is Marabi. Whenever another minion is frozen, add a copy to your hand. Look at this absolutely awesome freeze control shaman that we are seeing from Ziggy Sarah. This elemental freeze shaman. Voodoo Hexer comes down, of course, with the freeze capabilities with it. We might see some more taunts come in line. You obviously heal yourself up a little bit more, but you got to think at this point, you can just start applying the pressure.
Yeah, put the taunt down. Wolf hasn't shown that he's got any way to deal with high health minions, so she can just push that 7 damage right away. I mean, Wolf is again facing lethal this turn, and yeah, I love that Ziggy is just all in on this freeze package. It's like the freeze variant of the mid range elemental shaman, and it's so far with all those taunts and freezes, it's doing the job against this even Paladin.
Hey, I'm digging it. I've been waiting for some type of fun deck to play on ladder, and who knows? We might just kind of highlight Ziggy Sarah's deck here next week about the really awesome featured decks. I hope this is one of them because regardless of whether or not it's actually viable, it's just a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I want to see this deck on What the Deck within 3 days maximum. So get on it, bud. I love where this is going.
And meanwhile, we're going to get on that, but we will also probably get on to game number 3 as Ziggy Sarah has lethal on board and can close everything out. Wolf says, I have no idea what just happened, but all I know is that it's cold. It's just so very cold.
And Ziggy actually reached for the Murabi. She was going to go for it, but Wolf hit the concede before that. Hang on next time, Wolf. Because there's some creativity in this league, and you just might miss something special.
There's some fun stuff happening right around there. We saw some Marabis, we saw a lot of freezes. Unfortunately, we won't see that deck again because Ziggy Sarah won with it. So just like that, up 2-0, even Paladin on its back heels, and only thing left for Ziggy is the Hunter. And now we've seen a few different viable Hunter archetypes, from the Recruit style to the straight-up Spell Hunter. We've even seen Odd Hunter, even though it's fallen off a little bit on ladder presence. Still plenty aggression, plenty of ways for it to just kind of sneak out some wins as well. So there's a lot of options for Ziggy Sarah here, but there's even more options for Nate Wolf. Your Paladin has now lost you 2 in a row. Do you switch it up right now, or do you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go down with the ship that is Uther?
It's still his highest percentage deck. Even though he kind of got chumped a little bit by Ziggy's very creative build, he still has to just try and stick with the deck that has the highest percentage of getting a win on the board, and that's still even Paladin, despite how this series has gone.
Yeah, you got to think at some point it's just going to sneak something out. And if there's one thing that we have not seen from the Hunter archetype is really a big control focus. It got a little bit of control tools in the Witchwood, but for the most part, it likes to be aggressive. Or the spell version likes to have those big swing turns with its spell stone. And then the Recruit style, it plays like old school, kind of like Big Druid back in the day. It just kind of wants to bide its time and then just punch you in the face with a bunch of big charging minions.
Yeah, it's a tricky deck to use, but it has incredible burst combo. There are even variants of Recruit Hunter that can OTK 30 damage straight up in combination with Dire Frenzy, Play Deads, and Charge Devilsaur. So you can get 3 10-10 chargers on board on turn 7. It's rare, but it happens. So it's a deck with a lot of potential. It's very difficult to pilot, though.
Absolutely. The difficult-to-pilot decks can always make for entertaining matches regardless. And the one thing that we are going to be entertained by is Game 3. We will see if Nate Wolf can come out of this 0-2 hole. And he goes with the Shaman early on.
This is super interesting. Well, he knows that Ziggy's down to her Hunter. So maybe he feels this is his best deck against that Hunter deck. But we'll see. So I see a Keleseth on Ziggy's side in the Serenite Chain Gang. I don't know many Hunters that run Serenites. Tar Creeper? I'm not sure what this is.
Methinks this will be well, you know what? Let's give Ziggy credit. We just saw a free Shaman, an elemental free Shaman. Who knows what this is? This right away we see Keleseth on 2. Great thing to have if you're going to be playing with a Keleseth deck. And then we see a couple of 3 drops to go on top of it. Meanwhile, Wolf, I see Keleseth as well in hand. This is going to be kind of each side is going to get the value out of their Prince Keleseth. It's just whether or not the other side is built to defeat the other. But from what we've seen so far, I don't know what to think about this other than the fact that everyone's got a really good curve.
Yeah, and I really would have liked to have seen a coin Keleseth from Wolf last turn. He's using Shaman, so he's got the ability to create a minion on the hero power, so why not coin out Keleseth and put some presence on the board, but that 0-mana Shaman backstab at least gives him the board.
Of course, that backstab does come with an overload of 1, which is interesting. I mean, at least you have the coin to get yourself into a turn 3 play on top of it. Stitch Tracker comes down. I see Seeping Oozling, Houndmaster Shaw. So the rush minions inside of it. Seeping Oozling leads me to believe that there's also going to be some recruit shenanigans here as well.
Yeah, I think this is another variation on the recruit mechanic. So both players believing in it. Wolf getting a Tar Creeper off the top of the Keleseth buff. That is an excellent draw on turn 3 there.
Absolutely. A 4-6 taunt on turn 3 is always fabulous to see. We see Lich King now in the hand for Ziggy Sarah, so maybe not the full charge package, but definitely some type of death rattle, elemental, just kind of curve things with this. The other thing I will say about this, I've only seen minions and weapons so far. Is there a chance that Ziggy Sarah is running something like Spiteful Summoner and Crushing Walls, or Spiteful Summoner and something else on top of it?
Yeah, Crushing Walls I think is the most expensive spell available. Call the 9 mana Call of the Wild, I think it was, is rotated out, so it can't be that. The Lich King, there's a possibility she's running the Silver Vanguard, which summons a random 8 minion from the deck when it on a death rattle. So like the Seeping Oozling can copy that, or just play the Silver Vanguard naturally. So that might be what the Lich King's doing in this deck.
And of course, we see the Charged Devil Sword now in hand, drawing the 8 drops. Not necessarily something you want to do with this kind of recruit mechanic with your death rattles. You want those things to stay in your deck as long as possible, and therein lies the issue with the deck itself. Meanwhile, Wolf has a decent curve of his own. He's going to be able to drop some Stonehill Defenders, maybe tap and get some totems out of this thing. He kind of wants to find the value of some good taunt minions, but there's not a lot of fantastic taunt minions from the Shaman anymore, besides basically your standard Earth Elemental. Abomination is cool. It's going to do some damage, but you might just go with the other Stonehill here and try again.
Maybe, or that Totem Cruncher's not awful. Yeah, Wolf goes for it. If you can get a couple of totems to stick later on in the game, that becomes a very big cruncher later on, and Wolf takes the board more or less. Both of these decks with so many just low power, high health taunts. It's just going to be like value trading all day. But tell you what, man, Shaw is real good.
Real good, especially when you have some buff minions to go on top of it. And if all of them are going to rush, you can start taking out, especially, let's see if Wolf knows to go at the totem right here. Of course, it's hard to suspect a card much like the Totem Cruncher right here, but instead...
I don't think Ziggy could possibly read Totem Cruncher off of the Stonehill. That's
a tough one.
Very esoteric pull for that. Yeah, she's just going to clean up as much as she can, which is fine. Wolf got both Serenite Chain Gangs back to back, and they both have the Keleseth buff. That is unbelievable value for Wolf's deck. His hand is weird, but it actually works really well because you got that Keleseth off early.
And Ziggy Sarah going into turn 7 with a bunch of 8 drops in there, and of course nothing that this ooze can destroy besides just being a tempo play. Lightning Storm going to come down right now. Hope to find its way through a couple of these minions. Only 2 damage on the Tar Creeper.
I think Wolf probably knows that Shaw is a problem, but he doesn't yet know why. Ziggy pulling 3 8-mana minions, so no Silver Guard. Silver Vanguard's going to help out, but there's probably another Charged Devil Sword in the deck, so turn 8, Kathrena can just be played raw for her Battlecry Death Rattle. So this is going to be an explosive turn 8 for Ziggy, I think, now that she's cleared the board.
And especially when you have the fact that Houndmaster Shaw is still alive and no way for it to be dealt with by Wolf right now. Stonehill Defender is a possibility, but instead, high-value Serenite Chain Gangs just start getting your buffed minions out on the board and start contesting with some taunts.
Yeah, and there's the Oozling as well. So yeah, I think Ziggy's just gonna slam down that Kathrena, summon that Devil Soar, and just trade away this entire board and have a huge minion board of her own that Wolf has no way to answer. Well, just going with the Oozling, I'm really curious about this.
So engages the Death Rattle. See what it comes with. There's the Silver Vanguard. You got to think she might have dropped that down just because she's already seen a lot of her 8 drops come in. She knows what she's going to get out of it. She just needs to get some value out of that Oozling. Otherwise, it might be just a little bit useless.
Yeah, because the interesting thing, what she might have been doing by playing the Oozling first is making sure that she can copy the Vanguard, because the other copy in the deck is Kathrena, and she has drawn Kathrena. So if she draws the Vanguard, the Oozling becomes a dead card. So maybe that's why she played it first. And since she had a great board advantage, maybe she wasn't worried about getting Kathrena out as early as possible. And she's probably going to come out here anyway and do a ton of damage.
And there is a second Houndmaster Shaw now into the hand for Ziggy Stare. Of course, the first one was pulled by the Stitch Tracker, and now this one is going to be very, very interesting. Wolf was able to drop down the Stonehill Defender, get Alikir the Windlord out of it. Don't know why he didn't go for the 0-1 taunt instead, but here we are. Charged Devil Sword comes out. There's the first 8/8. Is he going to drop Lich King and protect it a little bit? I kind of like this move, right? You kind of leave that 8/8 up. You know that your opponent doesn't have much AoE. You probably might have seen a Hex if it was in your opponent's hand. Speaking of which, it just drops right there.
Yeah, that's exactly the reason I kind of would have preferred Kathrina there instead of the Lich King, because I suspect Ziggy's running King Crush as well with the Devil Swords, and Kathrina would have at least gotten her battle cry off, if not the death rattle, because Hex would have been too slow. And now Lich King just goes down to a 4-mana spell.
Serenite Chain Gang into the hand for Ziggy Stare, so those Serenite Chain Gangs can, of course, have Rush pretty quickly. Kathrina still sitting in hand, and you've already lost a lot of your 8 drops, so you might just want to get the value out of it right now, maybe tap a Hero Power on top of it. Of course, the Death Knight card of Obliterate can destroy something pretty darn quickly. You got to start dealing with this board at some point before you can put the pressure on.
Yeah, and she's going to go with the Shaw Chain Gang, because she also has Callous Death buff. So this is 6 damage she can apply immediately to the board and clean this up a little bit more. I don't know if she runs King Crush or not, but she may be holding Kathrina, hoping for that. Oh, Tolvir Stone Shaper at a 4/6. That's solid pickup, but Wolf is losing the board very, very quickly here.
So will the Winds obey our command, or will the Totem Crusher come down as a taunt? All right, not a bad play here. You get yourself a 6/7 taunt along with a nice Tolvir Stone Shaper, 4/6 taunt with Divine Shield, and you get to deal with one of your opponent's minions. Sort of delaying the game is Wolf, but I have not seen yet a way for him to take this board over and try to win the game, and he's down 0-2. He needs to find a way.
So depending on how many 8-drops Ziggy has in her deck, she may have drawn them all at this point. But when Shaw is on the board and you have the Oozling and or Kathrina, they can attack immediately and possibly activate their death rattles to get another minion. So they become like 2-for-1 minion plays that can affect the board. So we're going to see the Kathrina here and see exactly what's in her deck. Let's see if it's a King Crush. There he is. That's so much damage.
The big 9/9 daddy comes down. Houndmaster Shaw is going to find a way to just put some pressure on as well. Obliterate from the Death Knight.
I like that.
Boy, oh boy, this is a ton of damage. Down to 4. This might be the end of the line for Wolf.
Yeah, I don't think Calamos does enough here to
it's not even
keep
active.
Wolf from being dying. Yeah, oh my goodness, it isn't. Yeah, Alakir's only play he's got. And
that's it. I believe this is it. We're going to throw this into an 8-2. We're going to take out probably a 7-1, but even then, there's plenty of damage on the board. And this will do it.
Grizzly.
Ooh, the Grizzly comes down. Gives yourself a nice taunt minion with no downside to it. Wolf goes down, and just like that, a 3-0 sweep from Ziggy Stare.
Unbelievable. She took some very unconventional decks against at least one very strong meta deck in Even Paladin, and totally shut the door on Wolf, which is it's super interesting, Brasky, because Wolf is kind of a wild specialist, so he's probably more accustomed to that out-of-the-box thinking that you usually see in Wild, but he kind of went with more or less, straight meta decks. Ziggy was the one who thought out of the box, and it paid off for her 3-0.
Absolutely. We're going to try and get Nate and Ziggy on the call. Cinder, can you jump on that? Are you friends with them? Can you DM them and see if we can get them on here?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
In the meantime, while we try to get those folks up there, we want to know how you feel, chat, about what you just saw right there. That was an amazing 3-0 sweep right there. We saw a Freeze Elemental Shaman. We saw a really interesting, Keleseth Recruit Hunter going up against a different type of Keleseth Shaman all over there. This is what I love about UHL. You always see kinds of different decks that are going to be really fun to see. So we're going to try and get Nate and Ziggy Sarah there up on the line so we can discuss about this match with them. Nate probably not feeling the best. He probably feels like he's seeing some stars.
Yeah, it's... That Recruit Hunter can definitely sucker punch you if you don't know how to play against it. I love that deck. It was the first deck I built after Cobalt and Catacombs, and I'm still experimenting with it because it just has a ton of potential and a ton of ways you can build it. Like you can do a secret package with mostly spells on the bottom end. You can run Keliseth as Ziggy did. There's just a number of ways to build it, and even a number of ways for the recruit cradle to come out. Like she had Witchwood Grizzly, which comes out as a 412 or 413 if you have Keliseth. And then some people just run the dinosaurs for big charges for a big finish. So yeah, I think it's the deck that has a lot of potential, and I love that it's actually seeing a lot of play in UHL so far. Hopefully it gets refined down the road.
Absolutely. Nate has informed me that his Discord is updating, so it'll be just 1 second, and I do believe he is online, so let's see if we can add him into this call. Give me one moment here. Create a little bit of a group DM here. See if you'll answer the call of the light. Nate, are you there? Do we have Nate? I see him online. It says he's online. Let's see if he's...
I see a Nate icon.
I see a Nate icon. Let's see if he is there.
Hi, Nate. Ooh, I don't know. I should have watched that.
Yeah, there we go. I would have loved to watch it too and see what else we could put together there. Wolf is kind of getting his technical difficulties there. Let me see if I can also get Ziggy Sarah on the line as well. From the matches that you've seen so far, Cinder, what's been your favorite deck and what's been your favorite match that you've seen?
Well, Recruit Hunter is definitely my favorite, and I'm going to say that real loud since I think we just got Ziggy on the line. So, Ziggy, can you hear us?
Hi. Yeah, hey, what's up, guys?
What's up, Ziggy? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm chilly because I just saw a free shaman and I saw it win in decisive fashion. What the heck have you done? You are going to change the meta today. Talk a little bit about the deck choices you have and the fact that you just came out with a 3-0 sweep on Nate Wolf.
Okay, forgive me, by the way, I'm sweaty. I was dancing the entire time I was playing.
It's okay. That's fine. You dance away. We'll get everything rolling. Hey, what's up?
So I just built that shaman deck this morning, and I was determined to do something with, I call him Poo Robbie, not Moo Robbie, because I essentially poo most of the time. So I was determined to use that. So I built it today, and I was practicing with it, and I was like, I don't know if I can pull this off, and somehow I did. Yeah, it's like a freeze elemental thing. I don't know. I don't know if you could see at the end, but I was like, no, wait, just let me play Moo Robbie really quick.
We were pointing that out. We were like, she's circling over it. She don't concede yet. Oh,
no,
come on.
No. I knew that was gonna happen though. Yeah, so that one was a totally off the cuff random thing that happened today. I can't explain it. I will gladly post it online if anyone wants to give it a try.
I believe a lot of us will. Yeah.
Yeah, I think any excuse to getting some use out of Marabi for those of us who have him in the collection. Yeah.
And then the hunter, I don't even know. Recruit hunter is just so addicting. What is it about that deck? I cannot get enough of Katharina. So I knew that was what I was going to play, and that was probably a predictable choice for me. But
well, yeah, it turns out that an 8-mana minion that summons a couple more 8-mana minions is probably pretty good if you can live long enough to realize the value.
Not too shabby, yeah. And then as far as Warlock goes, I tried to practice Zoo because I didn't have the proper cards to build the current Q block, and I couldn't do it. It's 2018 and I still cannot play Zoolock for anything. So I was panicking in like the last hour, and I finally was just like, okay, this is like the last of my dust. I'm going to craft Skull of Minari so I can play this. And then I didn't end up using it. But yeah, that was I was worried about Warlock. So
yeah, we watched that Warlock matchup. It seemed like for a while, we were talking a little bit about how awkward the Q block hands can be sometimes, and when you just don't have your AOE, especially against the Paladin, and then you of course you got the Defile at the right time. You drew a Hellfire at the point when you needed it. Of course, you were able to seal the deal and just throw it away from your Doomguard on top of it. You did a great job just keeping the Paladin at bay without the use of a lot of your the strong plays that we expect from a Q block. So even without things like the Skull, and even with so many demons that just kind of laid in your hand, you still found a ways to just hold him off until you could get your taunts online.
Hey,
what's up? I believe that's is that Wolf?
Yeah, sorry, my computer like Discord keeps airing out. I just sent you a picture of it, but man, I got smoked.
Hi,
Good
Nate.
Wow.
Hi. Sorry. Well played.
No, it's all good. You had so much board clear. My poor Paladin. Oh,
Paladin. I'm not kidding. When I found out you were bringing Paladin, I was like, no, I just did not want to play against it. I was really freaked out. So that probably had a lot to do with my tech choices. Like I was like, I gotta beat the Paladin.
Nate, talk a little bit about what just happened to you, and specifically what your reaction was when you started seeing free Shaman come at your face and actually win.
Wow, I mean, let me ask you, how many cards were like free Shaman in there? Because I saw the Murloc and the weapon, but yeah, it was nasty. It was so much taunt and so much board clear, which are like the opposite of what I wanted to see for Paladin.
It started as a like exclusively freeze thing, which just wasn't working because I couldn't ever seal the deal. And then it became like a freeze Murloc thing. And then I eventually was like, okay, what if I do freeze and elemental? And then stuff started bouncing off of each other. And I was like, this might work. This is totally crazy, but I'm going to try it.
Oh my gosh.
Nate, I have bad news for you. You conceded just as Ziggy was reaching for Murabi, and you missed it. You missed out.
No. Oh, I shouldn't have done that.
That was like the whole reason I made that deck. I was just, I don't know. It's one of those cards that I was just like, I just want to see him have his day. Poor little guy.
Oh, I feel bad. I shouldn't have done that.
No. It's totally.
How
totally
dare
fine.
you?
I tried to throw him on the board at the last second. I was like, wait.
Nate, whatever classes you have left, you need to just not throw any legendaries into those decks because you did not let Murabi play. So, Nate, talk a little bit about your lineups as well. I mean, you came with, we saw Keleseth on Keleseth, but it was Hunter versus Shaman. That was an interesting deck to say the least. It just seemed like you were kind of waiting. You were in the Shutterwalk waiting room there in that final game.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was. I was. It was kind of an elemental build for the Shaman. I mean, I don't play Shaman all that much. I played a lot in Wild. I played like Concede Shaman with Kel'Thuzad and all the giant death rattle stuff. And as soon as I hit Golden, I stopped playing. And Shaman is not that great in the meta right now. I kind of tried to like divvy up my classes so that I wasn't bringing like the best ones like all at the same time. But it was kind of an elemental build between Keleseth, a bunch of Battlecry stuff. So there was the ones that generate cards and health and taunt copies and stuff. I mean, I wasn't trying to play like meme Shutterwalk, but it was like elemental Shutterwalk. I don't know. I mean, I play tested it a bunch, but like Shaman is like one of the worst classes for me. But I thought, I kind of thought that the Hunter deck was going to be something really aggressive. and maybe a bunch of taunt would be okay. It was kind of fun. I was not expecting to see Kels. Like, I thought you would bring a Katharina Hunter deck because it's an awesome deck, and
because I'm pretty predictable in that regard when I got so hooked on it.
well, I brought one too. I was experimenting this week with like 3 different versions of it and kind of finally settled on one. Although it didn't run Keleseth at all. But making giant dinosaurs is always fun.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I will wholeheartedly agree on the giant dinosaur thing. And I will say, Ziggy, on your side, the one thing I know about playing that specific hunter deck is the fact that when you start getting 8 drops in hand, you start getting a little nervous of whether or not you're going to get the value out of things like your Oozlings and Katharina on top of that. And we saw Lich King come into hand, we saw a charged Devilsaur, we saw Katharina, and we're like, are we gonna run out of chargers here in the first place? But luckily you started piecing things together. And an interesting fact that you went with the Seeping Oozling before going with Katharina, was that just because you wanted to get that value out of the Death Rattle, knowing that you might run out of it at any point?
Yes, to be honest, I was kind of panicking. I was thinking, oh my gosh, if I just go totally dry here on everything, what am I going to do? So that was, I don't know. I knew at that point that I was playing with fire and I needed to do something that felt weird.
I'll tell you what, that thing that killed me in that deck was when you pulled Houndmaster Shaw from the Stitch Tracker. Because if you leave that on board, you're gonna lose, right? I finally cleared it, or you ran it into something, and then dropped the second one, and I was like, no.
I'm not even kidding. When I killed it, I was like, oh, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. I should not have killed it. And I don't know what I was thinking. And then I drew the next one, and I was like, well, I got rewarded in a way I did not deserve to.
I forgot for a moment that Stitch Tracker discovers the copy of something that was in your deck. So there was a moment when I saw that second Houndmaster Shaw, I'm like, hold on a second, she's cheating.
Cheat.
Someone call Ferris Biscuit. We have someone who has broken the code of Hearthstone and is loading their deck with duplicate legendaries.
Truthfully, I forgot for a moment too. Like when I saw it, I was like, huh? my brain did a total blank out for a second. It usually takes me a minute to catch up, though. That's not uncommon.
I'm sad because I didn't get to play my Hunter deck because it's really fun. I love that deck.
Yeah, talk a little bit about your Hunter deck that we didn't get to see. I do believe you were running a little bit of the Recruit style as well.
It's pretty much the same as Ziggy's, but it doesn't run the Oozling, but it runs Cube, and so. Nice. It runs Cube and Play Dead. But aside from that, it's pretty much the same build. It's got 2 Charged Devilsaurs, the King Crush, 2 Savannah High Mains. And then Houndmaster Shaw, it's got a couple of the Play Dead stuff in it. And
so you're kind of mixing the Death Rattles with a little bit of the big minions on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the hard thing with that deck is that you can lose steam, if you aren't able to generate more. But it's really awesome to be able to pull Katharina out, pull a King Crush, cube it, Play Dead. You can do. There's some crazy stuff that you can do if you're able to. I feel like that deck it's hard. Like the early game part of it's a little difficult.
When it goes, it goes.
Absolutely.
It's boom.
When it goes, it really goes.
Yeah.
Cinder, what question you got?
So have either of you had the time to talk about our Lord and Savior Dire Frenzy? Because that card is really, really sick in Recruit Hunter. Dire Frenzy it's 4 mana, give a beast 3/3, and then shuffle 3 copies of the buffed minion into your deck.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yeah, so you get you put the buff on a Devilsaur or King Crush, and then they go back in. You get copies into your deck, and then you just do more Death Rattles and get more dinosaurs.
By the time I looked at that list, it was so close to the match starting. I started messing around with it earlier today, but it was just too I wasn't comfortable enough with it to bring it. But you may see it in the future.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. So, serious question though, how much of your looking forward to next week's matchup had an effect on the classes and the decks you chose this week. And both of you could feel that if you like.
Well, I mean, for me, I feel like my strongest classes are Warlock and Paladin, and I don't know, maybe Druid. I don't know, but I kind of wanted to split them up so that I wasn't bringing like the three strongest all at the beginning. And so I saved Warlock for last.
I guess, yeah.
I feel like Warlock is very, very, very strong, and I'm comfortable with it because I've played a ton of it. And just to that, I mean, that way, like if you can get a win with your best one, and then you have a couple shots at the ones that aren't as good, maybe, I don't know, but I know which three classes I'm bringing next week.
Do you? Wait. Yeah, it's the same for me. I really from the beginning, I was like, okay, I kind of want to split these up so that I feel comfortable each week, but there's not a way to do it so that I feel 100%. It was more like, I don't want to feel like I'm completely floundering any of these weeks.
Yeah,
I was worried about the Shaman deck that I was playing because I just don't like any of the existing builds right now. It feels really like the class as a whole feels kind of in the dumpster to me.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you have 1600 dust, you can just, of course, just, develop a Murabi, just craft that thing and just start going to town in the rest of the UHL league.
Noted. Freeze Shaman. Yeah,
you guys, I literally call him Pooh. Like, my deck's name is Here Comes Pooh. So...
Just wait till I bring Quest Shaman.
Quest free Shaman, all right? Just use a lot of the Burlocks, toss Murabi in there, see what happens. Just start developing some value left and right where you want to. Ziggy, so from looking at the ways that you did Druid, Mage, Warrior last time, you did Hunter, Shaman, Warlock, so methinks you have Paladin, Priest, and Rogue coming up next week for you. Do you have any inklings, or are you gonna tip your hand at all? You're gonna still test some decks out? You're gonna throw a couple of curveballs at your opponent next week, or are you just gonna sit there and go straight off of Vicious Syndicate?
I don't know yet, and I never do. That's kind of the thing, is like I go into it and I think, okay, I'm going to make a really good game plan at the beginning of the week and I'm going to practice a lot, and it never turns out that way. It turns out more of like I get really frustrated playing a bunch of different things and then finally figure out something that doesn't make me feel ragey, and then I play that. So I don't know yet, but I'm especially nervous about Priest, I'll say that much, because I don't have the cards to build a lot of stuff. The worst part is, though, I'm playing against my boyfriend next week, so he knows what cards I have. So it's going to be really hard to build anything that will surprise him.
Well, after you beat him, what type of dance will you do around him after you just wipe the floor with your Hearthstone expertise? Is it going to be like a moonwalk, or is it going to be OC?
I will definitely be dancing.
I like it. Nate, on your side, you got what I believe is going to be Rogue, Warlock, and Warrior for you. So you save the Warlock for last, but you leave yourself with a Rogue that can be very diverse, a lot of choices, and a Warrior that has weakened a little bit in the weeks to come, but maybe still has some life left in it.
I have that's in fact the only one that I've prepped so far is the Warrior deck. And I'm happy with it. And it's not, well, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different than I've seen so far. I keep my cards a little bit close to the chest, but I'm happy with it. It's kind of a fun build. So the other two decks, I don't know. I'm so tempted to just bring Q Block because it's gross and I'm good with it. But at the same time, I feel like I want to keep people entertained, and you want to see the same old thing, or you want to see something different. So, I don't know. We'll see.
I'm with you. Cinder, any other questions you have?
If I can not destroy my mic while I reach for my hot button. So,
the cute dog you got there.
This is
Hi, puppy.
We have a pupper sighting.
Gypsy Moon. Yeah, she's. We have 7. So.
Oh my god.
Wow.
So yeah, you're gonna have to play Spivey next week, but it's Spivey versus Chris tomorrow. How much trash talk is flying around your house right now?
Oh my gosh, it's endless, because we're in 1600. We're all in a group text together, so it's like there's constantly crap being talked, and it'll be fun because they'll be here in person. So
wait, did you guys hear what they're doing? They're swapping decks tomorrow?
Yeah. Yes. They're actually using the borrow deck feature.
Wow.
they
Wait,
thought
so are
about
they
it and they
gonna
thought,
make,
is
like,
this
the worst
okay?
decks possible, and then make their opponent use it?
It's actually I've heard a little bit of the at least one side of the thought processes, and it's interesting how much they're not intending to build like total trash for each other, but they're kind of hoping to like throw each other curveballs with what kind of deck, you know. So it should be really fun. I'm curious.
Oh,
You know,
I'll be
it's-
watching.
It's probably not in the rules, but it's also not against the rules.
They ran it by Ferris, like
Oh,
when
really?
they had the idea. Yeah, they were like, we should check and make sure this is it. This is kosher, and we can do this. You know, so they ran it by him, and he said, "Seems fine as long as you're both good with it." And
Yeah, watch that be the first official scandal of UHL, and it's just something as awesome as borrowing decks from your opponent and doing awesome things. So I will say,
Entertainment value.
yeah, I will say, Ziggy, you gave me the honor of winning a pack because I spectated a victory. So I'm going to share my screen here in one moment. Oh, let me see here.
I hope you get a golden Murabi.
We'll find out.
would be
Okay, so yeah, there's the OBS studio right there. And now I'm going to boot open Hearthstone. And we have one pack. Let us find out. Now, the big question here that I have, Wolf, Cinder, Ziggy, so I'm going to grab the pack. Do I swing it counterclockwise or clockwise, and how many times before dropping it into open?
1,600 times.
Gotcha.
I don't think the format will allow for that.
You should make a Z. I make a Z.
All right, that's the good move. Okay, so we're gonna go.
Flip it in, yeah.
We're gonna go Z for Ziggy Sarah because she won 3-0. In fact, we're gonna do it 3 times because she won it 3-0.
Woo, 3.
And there we go. And now we drop the pack in, and let's see what we get. No. Ooh, we got some blue. Oh, okay, it's just a standard pack. Well, it wasn't 1,600 dust, it was simply 40 dust. But I'll take a Commanding Shout and the Cult Master and, well, everything that we already have anyway. But it was a wonderful thing to have, thanks to the victory of Ziggy Sarah in the first game, and, of course, winning 3-0. So with that, I think we can do some shout-outs and go from there. So, Nate, Wolf, we'll start with you, my friend. Where can people find you on the internet and the wonderful content that you make?
Sure. Yeah, let me say, hey, congrats, Ziggy. Good job. That was great.
Thank you. You had me sweating, dude.
You can find me on Twitter at NateWolfHS. You can find the show at Into the Wild HS. And you can find our podcast on iTunes at Into the Wild, or download directly from our website. It's radiocircus.net. And that's about it for me.
Awesome. Ziggy Sarah, where can people find you on the internet and all of your awesome content?
I am on Twitter at Ziggy Sarah. It's ZIGGYSERA, right? Yeah. And then twitch.tv/Ziggy Sarah also. And you should listen to 1600 Dust because I'm on there sometimes, not every week. But that's 1600dust.com.
Awesome. Well, you two, take care. We really appreciate you jumping in. And thanks for one absolutely, quite possibly my favorite game of the season so far. So thank you so very much.
Yay.
Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
See ya.
See ya.
So let's see if I can switch back to Cinder here. Make some moves. Do some calls. Jump in and out. See what this does.
I'm back.
Is he back? Do we have video? Jump on that cam, son. Oh no, we lost the cam. What do I do? What do I do without Cinder? I'm all by myself. It's just me in chat, and I don't know what to do about it. Cinder, we get you back. We got him back.
Okay, I think I figured it out.
There he is.
I got it.
There's my man. There's my buddy. Cinder, this was an absolute pleasure. This was a wonderful, wonderful match of games, and it is always wonderful to have someone with your expertise to go up with my just aimless chattering.
Yeah, I love casting with you, Brasky, because I get to sit on the color desk because I'm usually doing the play-by-play. So it's always a treat for me to cast with you.
And so we asked our two competitors, but I will ask you, my friend Cinder Ascendant, where can people find you on the internet and the wonderful, awesome content that you work on?
You can actually follow that. Go to Twitter or Twitch and look for Cinder Ascendant, and you'll find me. because I'm the only me that there is. Twitter is Hearthstone and occasional dog pictures, and Twitch, I basically open packs on my stream, and that's about it. But come interact with me. I talk up Hearthstone and sometimes game politics too. So
there's always doggos to be had wherever Cinder. If you're ever in any Discord with Cinder Ascendant and there is any type of channel for animals, you can rest assured that Cinder will fill it with precious doggos and puppers.
And reptiles and rodents and all of the above.
Oh my. And so that is Cinder. Of course, myself, my name is Brasky. You can find me on Twitter at Brasky1142. You can find me on Twitch when I do stream, which is not so often in the past, but I'll probably get back into it a little bit at twitch.tv/Brasky1142. Of course, I'm a part of Swagoi Gaming, which you can find at Swagoi. I believe just swagoigaming.com or just swagoi.com. And of course, look below you at all of the wonderful, wonderful pieces of content you can find, mostly podcasts. But of course, there is 1600 Us, whom we had a representative of tonight. Blizzlet, who is a wonderful and hilarious spot. Coin Can See, Dad Legend, Hero Power. The list goes on and on and on. And so we can't thank them enough for participating in the league. And of course, shout outs to our fearless leader, Ferris Biscuit, for putting this wonderful league together. It has been a blast. It's absolutely one of the funnest times I've had just being involved in Hearthstone.
Yeah, he puts in so much work, and he's one of those people that I suspect subscribes to the philosophy of you do the best work when you're anonymous. Well, too bad, Biscuit. We're letting the world in on your secret. You're actually putting this whole thing together. You're the mastermind, and you deserve the credit.
And there it is. Of course, you can find us at patreon.com/UnitedHSLeague and on Twitter at UnitedHSLeague. And of course, just go to twitch.tv/UnitedHearthstoneLeague, where you are right now watching. Introduce other people to this wonderful channel, and of course, direct them to the website of UnitedHearthstoneLeague.com. So that's going to do it for myself, Brasky, and my buddy Cinder, and doggos and puppers everywhere. We wish all of you a wonderful evening and good night.